How do I get over my resentment for my boyfriend and jealousy for my sister's relationship? So I've been dating my boyfriend Gerald for over a year now, and I'm realizing that we never really did anything during the relationship. Before lockdown, we'd go out to eat and watch anime at his place, but that's it. And now that I look back on it, we never really did anything special, and he never did anything nice for me. Like, we went out to the boardwalk for a date that I planned, but he wanted to spend it playing arcade games. When I suggested various rides that we can go on, he chickened out and said that those kinds of attractions freaked him out. Dates with him were just getting takeout and playing video games, or watching him and his friends game. He's been faltering in some other parts of his life lately. He lost his job, but shows no interest in applying for work, does nothing but sleep or play video games, and he's gained like 50 pounds. Since we've been apart, I've grown to resent him for never taking initiative. It feels like I never really had a relationship with him, that he's more just a friend than a boyfriend. Meanwhile, my sister and my best friend are dating incredible guys. They are handsome, driven, and hardworking. They're proactive. They take them out and do fun stuff like hiking or picnics, or even do Zoom chats, but instead of video games and TV, they are playing games and even just chatting. My sister is even planning on moving overseas to be with her dude. I want the kind of relationships that they are having, but my boyfriend doesn't seem to get the picture, no matter how many times I've tried to talk to him. And here I am, stuck with this guy that I just can't feel anything more than resentment for. I want him to push himself and show that he actually gives a damn about things. But instead, he just sits on the couch with his eyes locked on the screen, and I can't stand it anymore. How do I get over my resentment for my boyfriend? And if possible, how to rein in my jealousy? Sorry if it's a lot to ask. And now in the comments, you are not stuck with anything, you are making a choice. And how do you get over your resentment? You dump him. He is exactly who you have known. He hasn't changed, and he won't. So dump him and raise your standards. Require and get better of the people in your life. Your jealousy will then cease to exist. And OP replies, I wish it was that easy, but everyone tells me that he's the best for me. I have Asperger's, and no one wants to date an Aspie. Why are you stuck with him? You are not married, you have no kids together, or I think you would have mentioned that. Dump his ass and find a new boyfriend. OP replies, I feel like he's going to go into a tailspin and spiral into a worse mental state. It's happened before after a good friend of ours died, and if we're going to be honest, I feel like I'm never going to find someone better. Everyone always tells me that. On the one hand, it could be a wake-up call for him to get motivated and get off the couch and off the video game console. You are finding reasons to not break up with him, which is self-sabotaging. If you want to find someone better, make a plan. Start running or biking or something. Find a group where you can meet new people. Don't believe people who say that you'll never find anyone better. But you also need to activate your own self to do that. If you allow yourself to believe that, it will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And now, onto the update. For starters, I dumped Gerald. He was upset and tried to convince me to give him a second chance, but I was done. I was sick of wasting all my time watching anime and gaming with him. I don't even like anime. And I was getting really burned out on nerd crap to begin with. It took my older, more intimidating sister to tell him to never call me again. Last I heard, he was still unemployed and living with his parents. No one else in his life. Pretty sad, to be honest. As for me, well, things are starting to look up. Part of my frustration 2 years ago was dating as someone with Asperger's. People think that when you're an Aspie, you can't function well in society. They treat you like you're meant to be handled with kid gloves, or like a young child. And I was frustrated that with my diagnosis, I was doomed to date losers like Gerald. To be honest, I didn't really find the advice that I got helpful. I instead asked my sisters what to do. I always trusted their advice, and I still do. I don't talk to my old friends from 2 years ago anymore. I realized that they were just not worth keeping around. I was also fed up with my job in IT. I hated computers and the whole geek culture surrounding it, but felt pushed into it because of my Asperger's and how they're great at technology to begin with. It made good money, but what's the point of having that paycheck when you can't enjoy it? I had no real friends, a boyfriend I resented, a job that I was crying every time I thought about it. I was miserable. Thanks to my sister's help and advice, I decided to turn things around. I went back to school, and I'm currently studying forensic science. It's something I was always passionate about, but discouraged from pursuing for that more lucrative tech degree. I had an internship with my city's police department earlier this year, and never have I found work that I found to be stimulating and fulfilling for me. I love hanging out with the friends I made. We share a dark humor that can brighten the grimmest of cases. I can actually talk to them about the things that interest me, like historical cold cases, and anatomy, and bizarre illnesses. And I'm in a happy relationship. It's with a woman that I met in one of my classes, and we complement each other so well. I won't say her real name, but let's say that it's Maria, and I have never felt so content to be with someone. We have a date later tonight and are making plans to move in together. All in all, I will say that this is a chapter of my life I consider closed. Me from 2 years ago would be happy to know that I am thriving now. And now in the comments, they said dump him like your sisters did. I'm scratching my head at this, to be honest. This was exactly what I was going to say. She keeps saying she didn't get any helpful advice. She did exactly what Reddit said to do. She never mentioned anything about hating her job and was unfulfilled, etc. She did exactly what Reddit said to do, but blamed Reddit for not giving valid advice because no one wants to date an Aspie. Basically, she put herself in the stereotyped box by thinking, when you're an Aspie, you can't function well in society, and I was doomed to date losers like Gerald. If people around you were thinking this, OP, please, once again, follow Reddit's advice and cut them out of your life. Maybe listening to her sisters say what everyone else said was crucial, especially since the sisters could elaborate and be more specific. I'm happy that she had real-life support and smart sisters. Yup. And side note, Gerald definitely had some untreated mental health issues. Hopefully he gets help. Doesn't sound like it though. I might be seeing patterns that aren't there, but there seems to be just as many men who think that the right woman will fix or put up with him, instead of a therapist where they have to put in work, as there are women who think they can fix a man. There are introverted women who would happily sit at home and watch anime and play video games. They wouldn't be so happy if the guy had no money and no job though. What should I do to pay $13,000 in late mortgage fees at 16 years old? Backstory. I'm 16 and currently homeschooled. 2 years ago, I was 14, my mum got sick and I was put in foster care for a few weeks until my aunt took me in. Once my mum got out of the hospital 4 months later, I was sent home. However, once I got home, all the responsibility was put on me. I have to pay the bills, pay the mortgage, buy groceries, clean the house, etc., etc. The problem I'm having is that my stepdad, as he isn't married to my mum but he is my dad at heart, doesn't help me with anything and yells when something isn't done. Currently the mortgage is behind, and if I were to pay the late fees, $13,000, then I would only have $26 left for bills until next month, which won't cover anything. My grandparents refuse to help because they don't like my stepdad. I'm at a loss on what I should do because if the payment isn't given in about 2 weeks or so, then we'll have to look for a new place due to foreclosure. I think I should personally just pay the amount and then try my hardest for the money for the other bills. My mum is still sick. Don't get me wrong, I love her, but she can do things for herself, but she refuses, which is why this is all on me. I know a lot of people have things harder than what I do, but at this point, I just don't know what else to do. Any advice would be helpful and much appreciated. And now in the comments, you need to talk to your grandparents or aunt about taking custody of you and removing you from this situation. They don't need to help your stepdad, but they should help you. Regardless, it is not your responsibility to pay anything towards the mortgage or deal with this. The adults in your life need to be adults. I'm sure you had a caseworker when you were briefly in foster care. You might contact them if your family isn't in a position to help you. Yes, OP, you were literally being brainwashed, abused, and taken advantage of. They really are. I don't give the answers above lightly, and I know the mental pressure they've put on this kid. I've been helping a kid recently who is now 19, but was put through so much crap like this and bounced between irresponsible caregivers. He thinks it is his responsibility to be the good kid and not cause any trouble or ever share his own needs or feelings, because that's the role they trained into him. Breaks my heart. I'm projecting that onto the OP's situation because I hear a lot of similarities. They are being abused. They are not bad to put their needs first. They need and deserve responsible adults to care for them. And OP replies, I just recently started putting my needs and such first because I grew up thinking that my problems weren't as bad as everyone else's and that my emotions were unstable. I have a thing where I can't stabilize my mood when I'm not on my meds. But since I've been working on myself thanks to my friend who pointed it out, I got out of that way of thinking. And OP also says, my grandparents refused to help. I tried to contact them a few times, but they made no effort to contact me back, and have even said they won't help me unless my stepdad leaves or my mum is in the hospital again, even though they didn't help when she was in there the first, second, and third time. I think you were misreading what the suggestion was. The response was to not reach out to your grandparents to help your mum and stepdad, but rather to help you. It certainly sounds like your grandparents know that your mum and stepdad are leeches, and that's why they are unwilling to support them. If your grandparents are decent people, I would look to see if they would take you in. Otherwise, you need another option. But you don't need to save your mum's situation if she can work but chooses not to, and your stepdad is taking zero responsibility. And OP replies, that's what I originally tried to do a while ago. They didn't answer me when I called them several times, the second and third time my mum went to the hospital, so I could just live with them or my aunt. So how are you being homeschooled if no adult around is doing anything for you? OP, you need an education right now and leave the rest to the adults around. And OP says, I enrolled myself for homeschooling through my virtual academy at the start of this year due to the pandemic. However, it has caused me to fall behind in my classes since my stepdad doesn't have a stable job and just works random odd jobs every so often, and he won't do much around the house, which leaves it on me to do. I think this has been said several times, but in case you missed it so far, your stepdad is a piece of crap. Call someone, even if it's the caseworker for foster care. Get out of there. And OP says, I think that's what I'm going to work on this summer. Right now, I am not in a position to get out because I plan to try and get emancipated so I can live by myself. I need to get my licenses first along with a few other things before I can move out on my own. Look, emancipation is not that easy, especially if your mum still wants to be recognized as your mum. The falling behind in school part might not work in your favor either. Please get help now. You can always apply for emancipation from foster care. If you have been given a foster care placement and pull your schoolwork into place, your case for emancipation might be stronger. Your virtual school, if accredited, should have a caseworker or counselor on staff. Try talking to them and/or CPS. And now onto the update. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who offered advice and helped me realize that my household was abusive. It brought me to a place where I spent time thinking about what I need to do for myself. As of May the 10th, the mortgage is taken care of thanks to an attorney that I was able to get in contact with. He has been really helpful in explaining everything and helped me with the foreclosure. As of now, the foreclosure has been stopped and I had a forbearance in place until June 30th, so I'm okay until then. We don't have to quickly pack everything up and move. As for the situation that everyone has been concerned with about me being in my mum's care, I'm currently looking for a job to get some savings up, and once my boyfriend moves out, he'll either stay with me for a short while, or we can look for an apartment, or we'll stay with someone else, and then we'll move in together. I'll probably post updates outside of this community in case anyone cares to see where this all goes from here. Again, I just want to say thank you to everyone who offered support and advice, along with just helping me open my eyes to the reality of my parents' behavior. You are all amazing people, and I wish you all the best in your lives. Take care of yourself, be safe, be happy, and most of all, keep being so amazing. And now in the comments, You may not think you need it, but I would talk to a therapist about having to play an adult to your mom at the age of 16 once the dust settles and you get things sorted out. That is batshit, and it will mess you up in ways that you won't realize for 20 years. Read up on parentification for more. And OP replies, I will definitely look into it. I had a therapist for a while, but she told my mom everything that I said in my sessions, so I can't really bring myself to go again, even with someone else, because I'm worried they'll say something to her or someone else. That was a breach of confidentiality, and that person should be reported to your state board. Yep, that's a bad therapist. You have been parentified by your mom, and it isn't okay. I'm just amazed you were able to do all of this at 16. Props to you. I wish I was as mature as you were at that age. Instead, I ignored the world and played video games. Good luck to your future. And OP says, that's what I used to be like. I locked myself in my room watching YouTube or being on my phone all the time, but I had to grow up pretty young, so I'm happy that I might be able to do that again. I feel so sorry for OP because everyone else seems to have failed them. Wishing them the best as they deserve it. The adults surrounding OP don't deserve to be called family. Except the aunt. She tried, but it sounds like she has a lot on her plate too. Yeah, I feel sorry for the aunt as she has 3 kids plus a DS kid to take care of, and she did step in for a bit at the end. Our next post is titled, I, female 34, find out why my friend, female 35, of 15 years, has ghosted me out for over a year. For readability, a small summary here. Lisa is OP's friend who ghosted, Jess is OP's other friend. A week ago, my husband, 11 years and happily married for 4, was out to dinner with Jess and her husband, a childhood friend that I reconnected with 5 years ago. Jess and Lisa know each other but do not hang out. During the meal, she told me she ran into Lisa the other day before with her boyfriend that she met for the first time. Told me that she seemed a bit awkward. I then told her that I haven't heard from Lisa in over a year now, despite my multiple attempts to reach out, but she just doesn't reply. And my husband then joked, saying maybe she was too busy with her new boyfriend now. But I was very hurt from her silent treatment. Jess thought the situation was weird too, and just told me that her boyfriend seemed nice and they knew each other for a long time before dating. Don't know why, but my mind just got a little light bulb lighting up, and I asked Jess to describe the boyfriend. Turns out it was my ex that I dated when I was 17 for 6 years. I left him because I fell out of love, and a year later, I met my husband. And Lisa was in the front row seat for our relationship's evolution, and knew that we are happily married, and most important thing, I don't have romantic feelings for my ex anymore. I haven't even seen him for 10 years. The next day, I text Lisa, and I asked her if the reason she's been ignoring me is because she's been seeing my ex. Not 5 minutes later, she replied, yes. She doesn't know how I found out, but she's relieved. She doesn't know how to tell me, and she's been with him for a year now. I kinda lost my cool when she told me that she values our friendship. I told her I don't believe that, because the moment she decided to hide this from me, she threw away our friendship. I was hurt by her silence. I would understand if she wanted to keep a distance from me for a while when she started seeing my ex. It would suck, but I would accept it, and I'll be very happy for her if they end up being serious, because I love them both, and I want them to be happy. But now I don't know if I can forgive her by letting me struggle for over a year, and I even thought that somehow I did something wrong that hurt her. So to be clear, I'm not mad that she is dating my ex, I'm sad and mad that she ghosted me for a year. I would love to see them together, and I'm happy. That's why I'm very lost. I even feel like somehow it's my fault, that she couldn't trust me enough to know that I wouldn't mind, but I am happy for her. And now in the comments, I know firsthand how bad that hurts. I hope you make peace with her. Not necessarily to remain friends, just to heal the pain of the loss. And OP replies, I'm sorry if that happened to you too. I just feel like I have already lost my friend, and now that I know the reason, maybe I can stop imagining things and just move on. I know you're mad, but even if what she did was awful, I think you two should talk and sort things out. You are happy for her and your ex, and that is good. If you decide to end your friendship and ghost her, it will eat you up. I ghosted a friend of mine for 2 years because he acted like a total jerk with me, but it hurt really deep at the end of the day because holding a grudge against people has that effect. Talk things out, tell her how you feel, she can still make it up to you and recover your friendship, or maybe you both decide that it's best to leave some distance. Either way, the best thing is for you to talk about the issue before it hurts the both of you. And OP says, I think I'm more sad than mad. It feels like she's already cut me out of her life. Talk to her. Over coffee or something. Texting isn't enough for this. Be on your guard, but open, and see if anything she says makes sense. If she was this level of cowardly, I think you would have noticed in the course of 15 years. So see what the hell is going on. Give her one chance. And if it's still insane and sketchy, then just let her go. And OP replies, I agree. I texted her because she wasn't answering the phone, even after our text exchanges, so I doubt she'll accept a face-to-face meeting. Besides, I need to cool off a bit before. I'm still baffled about the situation, and I don't understand why she felt it so hard to tell me the truth. We used to hang out all the time, and half of the time with my husband, and I never gave her any reason to not trust me on something like that. I mean, we're not teenagers anymore. I won't tell her it's against the rules. At this point, I know things will never be the same again. I just don't understand this situation. It feels like she's already abandoned our friendship with no contact for a year. Even if she's afraid of me cutting her out of my life because of that, she can at least give me the chance to choose for myself. Seems like she chose for me. And now on to the update. I'm just going to post an update to my situation, and I'll consider it as my closure. I followed some comments of my OP, and I reached out to Lisa after calming down, but she's still not answering her phone, so I ended up sending her a message. I basically told her that I was hurt by her actions, not the fact that she's dating my ex, but the way that she treated me. I thought we were friends, and for the life of me, I can't understand why she decided to ghost me. I know that we will never return to be friends, but nevertheless, I wish her to be happy and work out this relationship that cost our friendship. As you can guess, I got no answer. 3 days ago, Jess and I met after work for a drink. She made some investigations on her own. She is very protective and amazing. She knew of my previous relationship with my ex and knew how it ended. I know over the past 10 years, my ex had 2 serious relationships, but they didn't work out. Jess, as she learned from one of his close friends, told me the first one didn't work out because he was still hung up on me, waiting for me to change my mind. That was exactly why I cut contact with him so he can move on. The second relationship didn't work out either, but we don't know the reason. Our conclusion is maybe that I don't mind that Lisa is dating my ex, but she minds that her boyfriend's ex is around, aka me, since we used to hang out quite a lot together. So there is the update. I'm not mad anymore. I actually pity her to be so insecure, and if her fear is that me being around will sabotage her relationship with my ex, even intentionally, then me leaving them alone will be the best thing to do. I am at peace now, and I sincerely hope them both to be happy. Thank you for reading. And now in the comments, oh yeah, these situations are never about her friendship and yours, and always about her relationship with him. She wasn't embarrassed to tell you, or sad to upset you, or worried that she would hurt you. She's worried you'll screw her crap up with him one way or another, so you're out. I had that happen to me too. My best friend started to date my ex and just ghosted the hell out of me, and then after 3 years of nothing, they broke up and he was like, hey bro, I'm back, let's kick it. I blocked him and went on my merry way. To be clear, from Jess's info, Lisa is insecure that her current boyfriend, your ex, may still have hang-ups on you or past relationships. This may be a legitimate issue on Lisa's part, something she can't control if X does have a history of holding a torch for previous relationships. Maybe her fear that by interacting with you, the boyfriend will change or try to do something even though you have since moved on. What Lisa should have done was communicated this rather than ghosting you. She should say that she is unsure how X will react with you or any past girlfriends around and didn't want to make it more awkward. If she did that, the two of you could have navigated the friendship where you would have had little or no contact with the ex, but still had some sort of relationship with Lisa. But these things are easier said than done. I've been through this scenario, and it was hella awkward. And weird. Even after the relationship with the friend and ex had ended, we just didn't become friends again. You did the right thing, keeping away. You did your role of reaching out one last time, and I am so sorry that you went through that, but maybe it's for the best. Being ghosted by friends sucks. I was ghosted by mine about 6 months or so after my wedding. She had been a bridesmaid. Thankfully, we have a mutual friend who told me the ridiculous things she was saying behind my back, which helped me gain closure. But man, does it hurt. It's been over 3 years, and I'm still not fully over it, and am nervous about running into her one day. I'm glad OP has closure now, and I hope she can find peace about it all. Our next post is titled, Dog Ate My Neighbor's Drone, Am I Liable, Illinois? I'm not sure what to do. Earlier today, my neighbor came pounding on my door, screaming obscenities and shouting at me. When I finally got him to stop yelling, I found out that he was flying his drone in my backyard again, and this time, my dog finally managed to catch it and destroy it. He claims this was a $900 drone, and I had to pay him right then and there. I refused and closed the door in his face. A couple of hours later, police showed up to retrieve the drone. It was still in my yard, but my dog completely ignored it once it stopped buzzing and asked about the situation. The said neighbor called them, stating that I refused him access to my yard to get it. That is not true, he never asked. I'm worried the neighbor will try and press charges against me for destruction of property or sue me. Will he have any legal standing if this goes to court? He has a history of flying his drone low over my yard to tease my dog. I've asked him to stop several times, which he always refuses, telling me that I don't own the air above my yard. I have called the police to complain once before, as he was doing flybys over my dog and getting very close to hitting him. The police didn't say that he couldn't fly it in my yard, but did ask him to stop doing so in order to avoid conflict. That only seemed to egg him on. And now in the comments, I wouldn't worry. The standard and best advice is to ignore him until and unless you get served. If that happens, you will need to show up, but your case seems pretty cut and dry. If you want to be prepped in advance, you can always reach out to the police to see if they have a record of your previous complaints. The fact that you had previously spoken to the police and they had told him to stop would surely count in your favor. Gather your evidence now, so that you're prepared if you do get served. In answer to your question, right now you just ignore him. There is nothing criminal here. You did not intentionally destroy his drone, so even if he were to complain to the police, they are not very likely to press charges. And that leaves a civil suit. It is possible that he may sue you. If he does, it would almost certainly be in small claims court. And if he does, be sure to show up. Best to bring a copy of whatever police records there are from the time you complained about him doing this. He has an exceedingly small chance of winning that case though. You have no duty to keep your dog from jumping after drones flying just above his height in your yard, but your neighbor has a duty to avoid interfering with the reasonable use of your property. I'm more concerned about your dog. It's possible that he swallowed something that could hurt him. Watch him carefully. But honestly, to be sure, I would take him to the vet. If he swallowed something sharp or too big, that could be deadly. If your dog was actually injured because of this moron, you can sue him for the vet bills. Your neighbor is an idiot and he's blowing smoke. Ignore him unless he actually does sue you. And OP replies, thank you. It didn't even occur to me that he might have gotten a piece off. I will head to the vet when they open in an hour. And keep the vet receipt in case the guy sues, so you can have countersuit for your dog's medical bills. And now, onto the update. So, I was served a summons by the sheriff's deputy. Neighbor decided to take me to small claims court over his drone. My mother-in-law is a paralegal secretary, so I was able to get a free consultation with a lawyer where she works to ask some questions about what to bring and how to prepare. He seemed genuinely amused that my neighbor was even trying to sue. He also suggested that I countersue and how I could possibly add in more damages. He also told me that my neighbor and I technically live within 5 miles of an airport, and even though it doesn't have a tower, technically that falls under FAA regulations. I called the hotline from Google, and I spoke to them about my neighbor's hobby of flying out of line of sight. flying several thousand feet in the air, flying near an airport, and made an inquiry into if he was registered to fly drones, saying he owned 2 very large drones. As he already bought a new one, this one is almost 5 foot across. I don't know the weight of his, but it definitely is at least a few pounds. They took my information and have called me back once, so I know they're investigating, but I don't know anything else. I'm not sure if they'll tell me anything anyways. I brought both police reports to court, as well as several photos of my backyard, photos of our shared 8-foot privacy fence, medical bills for my dog, and a few short videos that I had of him doing flybys over my dog in the past. His main argument to the judge was that I maliciously installed a table to allow my dog to jump high enough to catch his drone, which I somehow trained him to do. Which, yes, I had recently bought him a new picnic table, but only so I have somewhere to sit and eat outside. I argued that his flying was causing my dog anxiety, and that is what provoked it. And thanks to y'all's advice, that my dog could have potentially died from ingesting part of the drone, or if the drone hit him. In the end, he now has to pay me just under $2,000 for various vet bills, x-rays, dental exams, sedation, medication, etc. And he is also banned from flying over my property, and I installed trail cams in the front and backyards just in case. He seems pretty upset with me, so I just wanted to be careful. The only thing that could make this better is if the FAA finds a reason to fine him or take away his drones. And now in the comments, I worked in UAV traffic management for 3 years. OP's neighbor is about to get screwed by the FAA. Part 107 drone pilot here. Soon as they brought up proximity to the airport, also flying out of line of sight and the size of the drone being used, I giggled a bit. $2,000 owed to OP is the least of his problems for a long time. There is chunks of the FAA specifically dedicated to ruining idiots like that guy. Like I said in another comment, he may not get banned from purchasing a drone, but I'd be surprised if he could even afford one after the FAA finishes with him. Also Part 107 drone pilot here, assuming OP's neighbor does not have a drone pilot license, he is 100% screwed. You aren't allowed to fly within 5 miles of any airport. So strike one. Only thing the drone pilot's license could maybe get him is a buy for flying in unregistered airspace a few miles from a non-towered airport, which is allowed. Of course, having the license would also mean the neighbor knows they are doing illegal stuff, which could make him extra in trouble. Flying without line of sight, also illegal, strike 2. Now for the size, they could be uber screwed. The FAA has certain weight restrictions for things they consider drones. If OP's neighbor went above that with, say, a 5-foot wingspan copter, that would be considered a bona fide aircraft, which requires a completely separate set of rules and regulations. You've heard of tree law. This summer, get ready for drone law. Some people never advance past the middle school bully stage of life. I hope the FAA finds that he's breaking some laws, and he also faces consequences from them. Were the 8-foot fences not a clue the husky would be able to grab the damn drone 3 foot above his head? Actually, scratch that. He probably was hoping the dog would break it so he could extort OP for cash. The dude immediately bought a bigger drone before the court case. Something tells me he was expecting some sort of financial windfall. I'm sure the FAA will love that windfall almost as much as he would have. My girlfriend is threatening to break up with me if I don't kick my sister out. A month ago, my younger sister, 13, moved in with us. Our mum has been a drunk my whole life, but she has always been a functioning alcoholic until now. My sister called me crying a month ago and said that our mum let this dude move in and he was being creepy towards my sis. So I drove down and my mum agreed that my sister should go live with me. I didn't ask my girlfriend for permission because my sister needed help, so it was a no-brainer. But ever since she moved in, my girlfriend has been complaining non-stop that I'm spending too much time with her, that I'm not spending enough time with my girlfriend, that I'm spending too much money on my sister, and so on. And now she told me that she'll dump me if I don't kick out my sister, that I am not her father, and that I shouldn't have let her move in at all. We've been together for 5 years, and I honestly have never seen her act this way. I'm obviously not going to kick my sister out, but I just don't know how to fix things with my girlfriend. And now in the comments, I think you had little choice in this situation. Your sister is a child and was in a dangerous environment. Your girlfriend has every right to be upset about the situation. It's not what she signed up for, I'm sure. Is she willing to compromise? Or is it 100% her way or the highway? Perhaps figure out a way to have alone time without your sister. Get some funds from your loser mum? Work with the CPS to get her home straightened out. If there is no compromise, I'm not sure if I could be with a person that would be willing to kick out a vulnerable relative and then return them to a home with a drunk mother and a pedo boyfriend. If your sister was an adult, I could see where your old lady was coming from, but your sister is 13 and needs a reliable family member. If she breaks up with you because you were taking care of your sister, then she ain't the one, chief. You can always find another girlfriend. You can't get another sister. Imagine having kids with this woman. Family comes first. You can always get a new girlfriend. You can't get a new sister. My little sister would come first. I'm the oldest out of 5. I'd be like, well, you do you, boo, and go back to doing whatever it was I was doing when she decided to be dumb and threaten that. Same. I was in a similar situation when I took my younger sister every weekend in school break for several years to get her away from my alcoholic dad and crazy stepmother. I had an apartment and my boyfriend lived with me. I informed him of my plans, and if he was not happy, he would have been free to leave. In this case, it wasn't as dangerous as OP, mostly to give the kid a sense of normalcy, as her home was like the War of the Roses. I can't imagine a human that would not want to give respite to a child in danger. And now on to the update. Since I posted my original post, quite a few people have messaged me asking me for an update, so here it is. After my post, I had a long conversation with my girlfriend regarding us, my sister, and our future. She essentially told me that she doesn't want to be with me if it means that she has to live with my sister, that she didn't sign up to live with a teenager, and that I should just send my sister back. I told her that wasn't a possibility, so the next day she moved out. There is still a ton of her stuff left that she'll pick up when she rents something of her own. On my original post, many people said that I should have discussed my sister moving in before she did. And maybe I should have, but my sister called me crying, so that same night, I got in my car and drove 400 miles to pick her up. As much as I love my girlfriend, now ex, my sister always comes first. Also, a few have asked how long my sister will stay with me, and honestly I don't know. Mostly till she's an adult, unless our mum gets her life back on track. And now in the comments, you absolutely did the right thing. You are an awesome brother. You do need to seek legal advice, though, on becoming her legal guardian. Otherwise, you are leaving yourself and your sister vulnerable. Get it locked in. Dude, I'm not discussing crap if my 13-year-old sister calls me crying, saying some random man is being creepy with her in her own home. You did the right thing. You did the right thing, yet I totally understand the girlfriend. She did not indeed sign up for this. So that was obviously a deal breaker for her, and you split. I don't see that as a bad thing. Suddenly having a kid around is quite a big change. For me, it's the fact that she said he shouldn't have let her move in, when it seems to be the only safe option for now. If they were engaged, sure, it should have been a more involved talk because yeah, she didn't sign up for this. And I do think it's a valid deal breaker if you were just boyfriend-girlfriend and all of a sudden you were living with a teenager who your partner is responsible for. But all the complaining and acting like he made the wrong choice, that's what makes her a jerk. It should have been, I'm sorry you were put in this situation and I understand that you need to put her first, but I also can't take this whole situation on right now. Not, how dare you care about your little sister and give her anything that you used to give me. It is crazy to me how often I see conflicts like this on here. Like, as a 26-year-old, I wouldn't be thrilled about moving a 13-year-old into my home unexpectedly for an indefinite amount of time either. That's a lot of big changes, expenses, responsibilities, and sacrifices. But if that 13-year-old was the family of the person I loved, and they needed help, I would make it work and help figure something out. Who sends a terrified child back to the care of an alcoholic and some random perv just because they aren't getting enough attention? Our next post is titled, My brother's goddaughter, 20 female, crossed a line with me, 34 male, and I don't know what to do now. This is going to require some context, so bear with me. About 5-ish years ago, I was living with my brother because I was in between leases. My brother's best friend was going through a divorce that got really messy, so his 15-year-old daughter came to stay with us, as my brother is her godfather. I wasn't really close with my brother's best friend or anything, so I had no investment in this situation other than feeling bad for the kid. My brother started to get really overprotective of her while she was staying with us, which started to frustrate her because she found him overbearing. To alleviate some of that, I started taking her out to things. Innocuous stuff like going to a movie or a fair, going on easy hikes, etc. Sometimes even invited her friends along and made it an outing that I chaperoned. Nothing crazy. I always let their parents know what was up and had them back at a reasonable time. Played some Minecraft with her too. She started to talk to me more about things that she was going through, a lot of things she didn't want to tell my brother or her parents. I don't want to get into it much, but there was a lot of dark stuff and she was extremely depressed. I wanted her to go to therapy, but she didn't want to go. I didn't want to violate her confidence, and I'm also not her guardian in any way, so I couldn't force her to do anything. Anyway, everything eventually worked out, and she was able to go back into her parents' care. They had some sort of custody agreement. After that, she moved back in with them, and her mood got better. She added me on Instagram, and I was like, sure. It was nice to see her happy, and we'd comment on each other's stuff and message pretty innocent stuff to each other. We still played Minecraft on occasion, and honestly, I really came to adore her in a familial-ish way. When she went to college, she got pretty depressed again. She started opening up to me about it because we had had that relationship before. She was in a really tough engineering major and was continually alienated and left out of things, and even sometimes bullied by the guys. She tried to ignore it, but it seemed hard for her. I've never gone to college myself, so I don't know what it's like, but I felt really bad for her. To be honest, I also didn't understand why this was happening to her, because she really is a smart and pretty girl. Like, I'd imagine kids would be falling over themselves to be her friend, but again, I can't really speculate. This is where it gets kinda dicey, I guess. Honestly, my heart feels so anxious about this now writing about it. She would cry to me about not having close friends and no one she could talk to on a deeper level. She said that she felt robbed of a college experience because no one cared to involve her. I didn't live that far away, so sometimes on Friday nights, she would ask to stay with me because she didn't want to be in the dorm when others were partying since she would be alone in her room. So I let her stay over, never ever ever in the same room. I want to also state that she was not a minor at this point, so while I felt bad about not telling her parents, I recognized that she was an adult and it was not my place to tell them. Well, a few weeks ago, I guess at the end of her term, she wanted to come over. She told me a lot of worrying stuff, and I expressed concern and wanted to comfort her, but then she full-on kissed me. I pulled back and was like, what the F? Holy crap, girl, no. When I was done panicking, I told her I couldn't date her, but she said that we didn't need to date. I was like, if not dating, what then? What else is there? Because whatever it is, I'm not going to do that either. She then started sobbing and told me that she was sexually assaulted by a woman that she had made friends with. She said she was so eager to connect with someone that she ignored some red flags, and now she didn't know what to do with herself and doesn't know how to be a normal person. She said that I was the only person she has ever had a real connection with. She begged me not to tell anyone else because she was ashamed. She was scared no one would believe her because there is no proof. I believe that this happened to her because I've known her for a while and she is a very honest person, and I feel awful for her. I do genuinely want to support her, but I also feel like a really shitty human. Like, did I accidentally groom her? Am I one of those gross-ass men? Looking back now, I can see how having regular private contact with her might have been inappropriate. Did I lead her on? I never got any indication that she saw me in this way. I know I can't abandon her through this really difficult time, but if I'm going to be honest, I personally can't roll this back. I need to cut this relationship off at some point because it wouldn't be healthy for either of us. I don't want there to be any inkling in her mind that an intimate relationship is possible here. Can someone help me navigate this? I'm so anxious about it. I know she wants my comfort, and the thought of her having no one breaks my heart, but it's so hard for me to look at her after she's seeded these weird thoughts in my head. I'm a naturally anxious person, so all of this has been really stressful. Edit. I just wanted to add a few things about her mental state that scares me in terms of cutting her off. She has been self-harming for a bit, hitting herself, has some disordered eating that I've tried to help her with, talked about general existential tiredness, grief, guilt, unaliving, etc. Something that I didn't mention is that the main reason for her parents' divorce was a traumatic incident that is hard to get into because it might be identifying. Her parents never got any sort of treatment for her for this, and didn't even go to grief counseling themselves. I think this is why she is also so resistant to therapy, because her parents never prioritized it themselves. She has gone through way more than anyone her age should, and that is why I feel so bad. It's a lot for me, but I feel really paternalistic, and it makes it difficult for me to just let her sink or swim. Having said all that, some of you guys have mentioned her reliance on me and dismissing therapy as a way of her to hold me emotionally hostage, and in stepping back, I can also see that. There are many times I've had to cancel plans and even dates because she needed someone to talk to. I honestly don't think she's done it on purpose, maybe unintentionally. Thinking about all of this has made me really exhausted. I'll try to respond to comments as best I can. And now in those comments, she needs therapy, badly. She has a lot of unresolved issues from her childhood that, although you helped her get through it, she never got over it and is now dealing with the confusing trauma of being sexually assaulted. You clearly tell her that although you can be there for her, you are not a professional. You are not qualified to help her handle or process her experience, and that she absolutely needs to see a therapist from one adult advising another. Make it absolutely clear that her seeing a therapist is crucial, or else she might violate your boundaries again out of desperation. If you are truly one of the only people she can be vulnerable with, make her understand that therapy is for the best, or else she has a high chance of losing your friendship too. Edit. Because your updated edit mentions she's dealing with self-harm, eating disorders, and suicidal thoughts, it is even more important that you seek professional help for her. She is over-relying on you and unintentionally trauma-dumping on you. You mentioned you had to drop plans midway just to rush back whenever she cries out for help or someone to even talk to. This is no different from when someone you care about does something dangerously drastic to get your attention to tend to them. Whether she is aware of it or not, this result does not change how codependent on you she has become. Her saying, "I already have you," is proof of how much she's making you be her sole pillar of strength. She's probably also too entrenched in her own issues to see how distressing this situation is for you. Something you need to acknowledge is how there aren't any positive associations you have written about her. I know that you paternally care about the girl, but everything from consoling her to worrying over her all stem from negative things that also impact your mental health. You are essentially crippling your life in an attempt to coddle her. She's a young adult and needs to properly work on her issues so that she'll be able to live a fulfilling life. She needs professional help, especially if she's self-harming and has constant suicidal thoughts. You're like a cool uncle, but you aren't her uncle. To you, it was familial. To her, it is a huge part of what probably improved her life. Then your lack of experience kind of unintentionally caused issues. You need hard boundaries now. Support as an adult who cares, but what the hell? Sleepovers? Nah. I don't think you're some groomer, but you are way more than you should be. She needs professional help. That is all that is going to fix her. Be an ear, fine. Be a chaperone for a group of friends, cool, but no more one-on-one. And OP replies, "I appreciate the insight and advice. Thank you. Yeah, no more sleepovers. But I feel like everyone is imagining something way worse than what it was. I just had a pull-out couch in the living room and she'd sleep there in her sweats, lol. She never attempted to come into my room ever, and if I ever went out there at night, it would be because I wanted to get water from the kitchen. Most of the time I'd go to bed early, at around 10 p.m. max, and she would stay up on her phone in the living room before making the bed herself. Look, OP, I don't think anyone thinks your intentions were inappropriate or even leading her on/creepy. They were just not a great idea in retrospect. I think you explained yourself pretty well. Didn't come across creepy, at least to me. Seemed genuinely being a good dude. I'm a dad of 13 and 16-year-old girls. My perspective was less about your actions, more about how she's seeing things. You're a father, and OP isn't. As a father, honestly now, what would you feel like if your brother's 30-year-old male friend was your eldest daughter's shoulder to cry on and friend? Never disclosed this with you, hung out a lot with her one-on-one, and by the time she turned 20, he would have her on weekends at his house, just the two of them, and wouldn't tell you or your daughter's mother because, I quote, she was not a minor anymore, and it wasn't up to him to get involved in telling you. And now on to the update/edit 2. Yep, I get it, no more overnight/sleepovers. Edit 3, this thread has been a lot to digest, and I feel like a whole thing has been unraveled. I'm so weary now, lol. Anyway, I have been thinking about this a lot, and I've arrived at that I have to step back from this relationship and hand off the heavy stuff to another adult. But I think that adult should be her mom. Firstly, I'm less afraid of her than her dad, and she's a much more level-headed person. She may or may not understand the relationship we have, I don't know, but she is aware that I have looked out for her since the divorce and has never been suspicious of my intentions. Secondly, I feel like it might be easier for her to talk about SA with another woman, even if it's her mom, when she's ready to. Thirdly, but maybe most importantly, her mom is a nurse practitioner, so she might know the right resources? I am really tired right now, but I'm going to prep everything, messages, emails, texts, etc., and then ask her mom if we can Zoom later tonight or tomorrow, if not meet up in person. I will probably take some major heat from my brother and his friend, but I think this is the right thing to do for all parties right now. I don't know what's going to happen to my friendship with her, but in a sense, I don't care. I just want her to be okay. And last edit, I got a hold of the mum, and we're actually meeting in the next 30 minutes. The less fun update is that I went to my young friend's socials, and I am now blocked on everything. I guess she handled that for me then. I can't say it doesn't hurt. I'm still going to send her an email officially stating my boundaries and letting her know that what happened wasn't okay, but also telling her that she needs professional help, and I hope she's able to receive it. And now in the comments, it's so hard when you are just legitimately trying to be a good human and support someone, but you wind up being in this position. I'm glad OP is distancing himself, but also put measures in place by reaching out to the parent. This is definitely too much for any one adult to handle, especially on the younger scale. This feels like a BoJack situation with me. OP was trying to be a good friend/authority figure to someone who he really did care about, but in doing so, he unknowingly fostered a tentative romantic relationship with a vulnerable young girl. The difference is that OP has set clear boundaries, whereas with BoJack, we don't know what would have happened if the girl's mom didn't walk in on them. There were so many times throughout OP's post where I thought, damn, that's gonna backfire, and it did. Like keeping the fact that she was depressed hidden from her parents. Not a good idea at all, unless her parents were the root cause of her depression. But in that case, OP still could have told his brother. Keeping that big of a secret does mean OP gets to keep her trust, but that also means from her end, she can tell this attractive older man anything, and he'll keep her secrets for her. Not even her own parents are giving her that kind of constant attention right now. Don't even get me started on the, of course you can come over parts. Like, how is she gonna make friends that she craves if she's constantly at OP's? He should have encouraged her to go out or join a club of something instead. I know this must really suck for OP because for him, he thought he was being really nice and liked hanging out with his pseudo-sister, but from her end, she never saw it like that. That email strikes me as a spectacularly bad idea. Yup, especially with her mental health the way it is. He should communicate those boundaries to her mum and let her mum handle it from there. I can see why he wants to clarify boundaries, but that email is a bad idea. Third-party Chinese whispers and intentional misunderstandings happen like that. He's best doing it via email for himself. He also needs to protect himself in this situation. He is one accusation away from a nightmare with a troubled young woman he has just rejected. All she's gonna read is, "I'm not interested, don't do it again, and you should seek professional help to cure your craziness." I think this would just push her further away from trying to get help. Jeez. Someone call the bomb squad. OP landed himself in a minefield. I hope you make it out of there, man. And that goddaughter finally accepts to go to therapy. Am I the asshole for calling my mum's fiancé a creep? I'm male 17. We had been going through pretty rough months in my family. There was tension between my mum and dad. They weren't talking to each other, and when they did, it was only to fight. After months of constant fighting, they decided to get divorced. That was 2 years ago. And I'm not gonna lie, when they divorced, the one who suffered the most was my dad. He never put on a sad face when he was with us, but I could hear him cry in his room when he thought we were asleep. For the record, I am the youngest, and I have a brother, 19 male, and a sister, 20 female. After this, the fighting didn't stop, so now they fight for which of us loves them more. If I'm honest, my siblings and I are inclined with my dad. He has always taken good care of us, helps us through everything, and he listens to us. Not like my mom. She has never been there. There have always been more important things to attend to or pay attention to rather than us. I never mind it since my dad was always there. My mom is a pretty important lawyer in our city, meanwhile my dad has a PhD in physics and works as a college professor. After their divorce, we stayed with my dad. We see my mom like 1 day per week and only if she has time. We kinda never see her because she always reschedules. So months ago, my mom told us she was going to get married to this dude who we had never seen. His name is Richard, but asked us to call him Rick. She said we should all get along. Since then, it has been a nightmare. Don't get me wrong, he is cool I guess, but I do find him a bit odd. He always tries to spend time with me and buys me stuff like clothes, books, etc. He even asks me when I'm available so we can have dinner. I mean, I'm polite towards him, but I just can't connect with him. I feel like it's a forced relationship, and he's not like that with my other siblings. Well, my dad too. He's civil towards him, but there is definitely tension between them. Last week, my brother wanted to try a new recipe, as he loves cooking, so he invited my mum and Rick. At first, we were surprised my mum and dad kept civil with each other, and we were having a nice conversation, but Rick kept complimenting us, specifically me, that I was an incredible person, very smart, blah blah. My dad agreed, but this dude kept insisting that we were so much alike, and that by spending so much time with him, he considers me already his son. That definitely hurt my dad, and I just lose it. I told him to leave me alone, he was being a creep. My dad told me to not call Rick names, and my mum did too. She told me that I was being a brat, and that I should behave because Rick will be a part of my family and another parental figure to me. I said he wouldn't, and that I won't go to her wedding if she marries a creep like him. I stormed off and went to my room. My siblings don't think that I'm in the wrong here, but my mum insists that I'm a spoiled brat, and I should apologize to Rick. Am I the asshole? And now in the comments, not the asshole. If you're getting creep vibes off of him, trust your gut. Be polite, but keep your distance and never be alone with him. No assholes here. It sounds like Rick is trying too hard to connect with you. He needs to chill and stop trying to force it. You were wrong to lash out, but he was wrong to imply that he'd be your father since you were almost an adult and you already have a father. Ultimately, Rick is the adult, so if anyone is the asshole, it is him. It sounds like your parents, Rick, and you should sit down and establish some boundaries for your relationship. You should try to give Rick a chance if he is willing to back off and be reasonable about how long it takes to build a relationship. Not the asshole. Rick is being creepy towards you, and there must be a reason. Just prepare yourself emotionally for a potential bombshell down the road. Not the asshole. Rick sounds massively creepy to me. If he's trying to impress future stepkids, you'd think he'd be equally creepy with them. He had no right to say he feels like a second dad, especially when you already have a dad who, even worse, was sitting right there. And when you did not give him any indication you want that, I would have a less angry convo with him, just your mum, and tell her you are happy for her that she found someone new, but you're an adult now, and while you will remain civil with Rick, she needs to know that he can't replace your dad and to stop trying. I can't help but wonder if your mum is secretly pushing this to hurt your dad. And now back up to the post, there is a note. Damn, I only came here to find out if I was in the wrong. I just don't know what to say to you. I added the quotation marks to be sarcastic since I don't think that we look so alike as he says. Now you really have me worried and wondering. Note 2. So I didn't want to address this with my dad right away, so I consulted Anne first, my sister. She is the most intelligent person I know, so I asked her. She had the same feeling as me, that Rick was getting way too close to me, and in comparison to her, he is stone cold. Now every time Rick wants to spend time with me, they'll be there too, Anne and Leo, my brother. And just like you guys, she asked me to talk to my dad. I did. I sat with my dad and told him about everything, that I didn't feel comfortable around Rick anymore. I appreciated all the effort, but he was pushing way too hard against my boundaries. And, like you advised, if mum doesn't understand, she can't force a relationship with an actual stranger on me, and I'd rather stop seeing her. My dad understood. He asked me to forgive him for not knowing my feelings towards Rick. He did say that Rick is trying his best he can to get to know each one of us, but he has no say on when we should open up or act like a stalker. He said he'll talk to them, but I told him I'd rather do it since mum may act like I'm not being serious or worse. We will have dinner with them, Anne, Leo, and I, next Wednesday, so wish me luck. And now on to the update. Hi, so this has been a wild week, and I wanted to thank you for your comments and suggestions. They really helped me through this. As I said in my last edit, we went to dinner. At first everything was silent, but then Anne broke the ice by thanking my mum and Rick for spending time with us, and that we should discuss important matters. I didn't know about this, but my mum has been awful to Anne and Leo this week. They addressed that if she wants us to be a part of her life, then some changes should be made. After they established their points, it was my turn. I started by stating Rick's presence has been bothering me since day one. Even if I should have said something about it, it didn't justify his behavior. I appreciate the effort, but he has crossed my boundaries, and even if I'm willing to have a relationship as friends with him, I'd not offer that option anymore if he continues this way. Also, I'll soon be an adult, so I don't need a parental figure, as I already have one. I then pointed out that my mum was allowing this kind of behavior, and it is wrong. If she's not willing to act as a parent and understand my feelings, not only mine, but my siblings too, then we'd rather cut our losses. My mum tried to justify her actions. Rick told her to shut up and listen to us. She stormed out of the restaurant, but he stayed. He looked sad and apologized for all of this. He didn't mean for this to happen. He asked Anne and Leo if they could give us some space so he and I could talk. Leo grabbed me, but Anne gave him a look, so he let go of me and went to a close table. Rick apologized again, saying he's not like that, and the feeling he might not connect with me took out the best of him. He then told me that he's my bio dad. My mum was supposed to tell me today, but she cowardly left. He doesn't expect me to accept him in my life, but if I ever want to know him or need anything, he will always be there. When we went back home, I asked my dad and he hugged me and told me everything he knew about it. The thing is, they don't know. The reason my parents divorced was because my mum cheated on him, and after she broke up with Rick, she was pregnant with me. My dad suspected it, but never confirmed it. When they divorced, my mum, out of rage, told him that I wasn't his son, and then Rick contacted him to talk about it. He told me that, however I feel, it is okay. I shouldn't feel pressured to act in a certain way. If I want to get tested, he'll help me, and no matter what the paper says, his love for me won't change. I will always be his son. I'm not sure how to feel, but I asked Rick to give me some space so I could think about all of this. I also asked my dad if we could just simply be out of our mum's life. I don't want to be involved with her, and neither do my siblings. If I'm honest, I don't know if I ever want to get tested, or at the least allow Rick to be a part of my life. But I feel grateful for the family that I do have, and all the support and love my dad and siblings have been giving to me. That's all I have for you. And now in the comments, thanks for the update. That must be a complete head fart for you. I don't know what else to say other than I wish you luck. I would love to give you some sound advice, but this is way off the map for me. Anyway, best wishes from an internet stranger. If nothing else, OP, it seems like your dad is a really good guy who is going to be there for you however things shake out with Rick. I get that Rick wants to connect with you because he thinks that he's your bio dad, which is a lot less creepy than what it could have been, but that doesn't make him a good person. He's still the kind of guy who'd have an affair with your mom while she's married to your dad. Just be careful. Not the asshole, and I'm glad you have more info. Sounds like Rick might be okay, just a bit awkward, but trying to make up for things. Maybe it would be worth giving him a chance, but that's up to you. Really, this sounds like a mess your mum created and sustained. I understand why you want to be away from her. It is possible that Rick has mixed feelings about your mum, and that he might want a relationship with you more than with her. Hard to tell. Anyway, it's your choice how to approach all this. Take your time, as this will take time. Rick's behavior definitely seems a lot less creepy once you know that he might be OP's bio dad. Best thing I can suggest, OP, is therapy. Someone trained to help you navigate this horrendous situation. I'm also wondering if Mum was feeding Rick a whole different story about OP and the relationships he has with the rest of the family, but as he figured out or found out, she's a big ol' lying liar, is realizing it's better to back off and let things happen naturally once everyone knows the full story. For my money, Rick's still not that great. Rick had an affair with a married woman who had children. The second that he found out that he could have a relationship with a kid who might be his son, he instantly started crossing boundaries and pushing intimacy, and that's not creepy, thank God, but it does show that Rick's instincts are to think about what Rick wants and not what the people around him need, even his own potential children. He does sound like he's capable of listening and apologizing sincerely, thankfully, so I'm hoping he is capable of growth. But he's still an asshole. I think OP is wise to keep him at a distance until he's ready to consider more communication, if that ever happens. Until Rick has proven that he's not just a total asshole, if that ever happens. He has the father that he wants and needs already. And now back up to the post, we have an edit. Hi, thank you all for all of your comments and even the funny ones. Y'all made me smile and I guess I needed that. I really liked the Mary Poppins one and the references to the Guardians of the Galaxy. He may be your father, but he ain't your daddy. I can't express how much y'all have helped me to appreciate the family that I already have, and how blood doesn't equal family. Thank you again for that. I wish I had answers for your questions related to the reason of my existence. As I said, I haven't talked to Rick since that night, and I guess I didn't have the courage to ask. This whole thing has drained me, and I'm not sure if I even want to know. Guess that I'll only make things worse, that my perception I have of my mom, as if it wasn't as bad as it is now, and also in terms of Rick. If she lied to him or not, or why she neglected me for years. For the moment, I don't want to know. I don't think it will add something meaningful to me, so I guess I'd leave it like that for now. One thing I may be doing is getting tested to have a complete medical record. So thank you again for your comments. They really have impacted me. Some made me cry happy tears. Our next post is titled, "Today I messed up by sending a call from the International Space Station to voicemail." So this happened 2 days ago, on Sunday. A friend of mine is currently on his second mission to the ISS. I saw a call come in on my iPhone, and the caller ID said US Gov. I first had that thought or feeling you get when the principal calls you to their office and said, crap, what did I do that I thought I got away with, but maybe I didn't? I was in the middle of something with a bunch of people and showed them what it said on my phone, and everyone was like, don't answer it. Between everyone's suggestion and my gut feeling of being in trouble, I sent it to voicemail. Turns out, it was my buddy calling from space. I had a chance to speak to someone that wasn't on Earth, and I screwed it up. First thing he said in the voicemail was, you probably saw a call from the US Gov and turned it down. I know he'll call again, but damn, I feel like an idiot right now. And now in the comments, I feel like it's almost cooler that you have a voicemail from someone calling from space since you can save it. And OP says, that's true. Good news that I'll have that and we'll still be able to talk to him, so yeah, win-win. Don't just save it in the phone. My grandma had a voicemail from my dad/her son from a week before he died, but she didn't tell anyone and tried to keep it saved on her landline phone by listening and resaving. This was really before recording tech was owned by everyone. Would be nice to hear my dad's voice again, but there were no videos or recordings anywhere. The fact that he knew why you didn't answer tells me him and others have probably had the same experience one too many times and know the drill. A famous French film director had the same story a few months ago. He missed a call from the ISS from Thomas Pesquet, a French astronaut and a huge fan of his work. He was calling to congratulate him for his last movie that he got the chance to see from the space station. And now on to the update. He called back on Saturday. Phew, what a fascinating and amazing experience. Call quality was as good as a regular call, but there was a slight delay that made natural conversation a little difficult. I asked where he was currently flying over, and he said the western coast of Africa. Then I asked how the ride was, and he said smooth and awesome, as his first trip was on a Soyuz. He said the second stage acceleration was incredible and that they hit over 4 Gs, noting that it's surprising the thing stays together. Then at Seco, they were thrown into their straps from the deceleration and bam, orbit. Roughly 8.5 minutes after launch. They were coming up on a couple of days off, not because of Memorial Day, just coincidence, and the conversation was only 12 minutes long, but we had to end it because of the satellite issue that was about to happen. The exact reason is out of my wheelhouse. Interestingly, the call came from the exact same relay number. We joked about some funny stuff that happened when I went out for the launch. He got a kick out of the situation with the first call that I shared here and said that that is a common occurrence. I didn't expect the call to be as short as it was, so I forgot to tell him how much the original post blew up, but I'm definitely going to email him about it. I just saw today that there are a bunch of articles online and a few podcasts that mention the post. The internet is a fascinating place sometimes. And now in the comments, I never even thought of astronauts being able to call friends to have conversations about their flight to space the same way that I tell mine that I landed safe in Vegas. Wild. Thank you for the update and treating this moment with the reverence it deserves. In my personal life, I interact with a bunch of people who work at NASA, and oh my god, they're so blasé about the coolest stuff. Talking about this or that conversation they had with an astronaut or celebrity so nonchalantly, I almost want to scream. People can accept almost anything as normal, given enough exposure. It's the only way you can cope with it. If you're starstruck all the time, you can't function properly, so at some point, the coolest stuff becomes normal for them. Am I the asshole for telling my fiancé she's not the breadwinner if she's not footing the bills in front of our families and friends? My fiancé and I moved in together shortly before we got engaged. Before we did, we discussed how we'd split the housework and bills. 50-50 down the middle with some wiggle room for when the other needs help. When we moved, it was into her parents' 2-story garage that they converted into basically an apartment. They offered a low rent, $700 total, and pitch in for the electric and internet so we could save money for our own place and wedding. My fiancé earns more than me, and that's cool. I'm proud of her. Before we moved in together, it always seemed like she was living paycheck to paycheck, and I chalked it up to the apartment she had prior having insane high rent. She stuck to the 50-50 arrangement at first concerning bills, but she missed often, and I had to remind her about it. Post-engagement, she's back to living paycheck to paycheck, either missing or very late with her part of the monthly rent, the 2 utilities we pay, groceries, late with her car payment. Her parents have talked to me multiple times about rent, and I've covered her missing portion to get us caught up, and then try talking to her. It always turns into her saying that we should just move if her parents are going to hound us. I told her we're lucky it's her parents, because anywhere else would have kicked our asses out. On top of that, I pay my own bills, do about 65% housework, arrange and pay for most of our dates and vacations, gifts for her, pay most towards our pets, etc. I've suggested a financial coach, but what kicks me is whenever we're around others, she boasts about being the breadwinner since she earns more, goes on about the stresses of being the main source of income, all the hours she has to work to pay all our bills. I was letting it slide until a few days ago when we were at a get-together. She and her sister started up again about her being the breadwinner. Her sister said something to the effect of her ex-boyfriend had a hard time being with someone who earned more, and my fiancé went, "Good thing OP doesn't mind me bringing home the pay." I told her, just because she earns more doesn't make her the breadwinner when she blows it all on herself, and I'm paying most of the bills. She's embarrassed now and keeps saying that I made her look bad and got her in trouble with her parents because they want to see what she spends her money on each month. But I don't think I did anything wrong. Am I the asshole? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. 1. I called my fiancé out about not paying our bills when she claims she does. 2. I did it in front of our family and friends, and now her parents are on her about her spending habits. Now in the comments, not the asshole, though you're focusing on the wrong problem. Forget perception, you need to sort out her financial irresponsibility before you marry, or things aren't going to get better. And OP says, I have put the brakes on any more wedding planning until she either sees a financial coach or a therapist to figure out what's up with her way of doing things. What does she spend it all on? OP says, I know some of what she spends on. Eating out for lunch, different hair and skin products, accessories for her car, house decor, pretty much anything she sees that she feels she needs to have right then. Yup, that's a problem that's not going to get better with time. I think you taking a stand about financial education is a wise move. I agree. Before I was able to get my ADHD under control, I would blow lots of money on the absolute dumbest things because I felt like I needed it. Looking back, it was purely a serotonin boost to make myself feel better about what I was dealing with at the time. Not the asshole, but why are you walking into this with your arms wide open? Like, that's a huge red flag. Do you want financial issues all your life because she can't get herself together? That's the real issue here. Run while you can. Not the asshole. What makes a breadwinner is being the primary financial support pillar for the household. She's not doing it, but she wants people to regard her as doing it. Honestly, I'm a little weirded out by her bragging about it. My mum was the breadwinner all my life. My dad's salary was typically about 1/3 of hers, and he was in a much less stable industry until I was in college, so he had underemployment and unemployment sometimes. And they didn't really say much about it ever, because they regarded all of their combined income as something that belonged to them together. And OP says, kind of in the same boat. My parents fluctuated between who the breadwinner was any given year between their jobs and splitting taking care of us. They never did this whole flex bit to others or each other. With her, it didn't really start until after we moved in together. The secret is that it should never be something that's brought up to others or thought of. Both people come together and work out a system where they are both putting in equally. Money is just one of many things that is put into a relationship. One may make more, while the other does childcare or cleaning, or maybe they make different amounts, but it doesn't really matter. I make more money, so I put that money towards the house, because in the end, we'll both enjoy it more. I am all for letting people have their own money in a relationship, but if it's a big chunk more, then I'd hope that it was being used responsibly to help build our lives. Work on getting a house, invest, extra savings for a rainy day. All of these are great ideas that help the relationship while still being separate money. And now on to the update. So 11 last night, I was ready to just postpone the engagement. As of this morning, after a lot of talking and things coming to light, we are broken up. Thank you everyone for your responses and input, especially those who encouraged looking deeper. Quick summary. She felt a joint account would impede her financial independence. She insisted we could afford her purchases based off our total incomes. Her parents were under the impression that she was also paying off my student loans, my car, my phone, and paying for our vacations. She didn't get evicted from her last apartment, but she was late with her rent often enough that they weren't going to renew her lease, so she didn't suggest us moving to a bigger apartment at her building. The biggest nope, I'm out. was the monthly take-home amount that she told me was what she earned before wage garnishment kicked in addition to mass debt. She's been doing some online stuff to make up for the money that she loses due to that. Yes, I got the ring back. Again, thank you everyone, but I will not be responding to any more comments. I'm going to take some time for myself and get crap figured out. OP provides some more details in the comments. Some relevant details here are their ages. I'm 34, she's 36. Her online stuff for money, camgirl work. When asked what she was spending money on, car accessories, eating lunch out at work, home decor, electronics, hair and skin products, she has packages coming in almost daily. Their income, she makes between $115,000 to $125,000 per year, 7 to 10K take-home a month. I make roughly $80K a year. She spent her money frivolously. Parents' knowledge of her past physical irresponsibility was, yes, as it turned out, when she was 16, they bought her a car with the agreement that she would pay for her gas and the insurance portion, less than $100. She would blow through her paycheck and allowance before paying and always needing gas money. She wrecked that car, agreed to pay her friend's mum for her used car, paid half, never paid again, and then wrecked that car. Her parents did put her in touch with a financial planner back then, but she wouldn't cooperate. When she moved out and didn't lose her apartment, her parents thought she might have changed. Also turns out she has a history of being late with rent wherever she's lived, and when it was on her own, her leases wouldn't be renewed. A whole lot of crap came to light last night when I tried to talk to her, telling her that I was cancelling the engagement until she got her crap sorted, and talked to a therapist and got her to share a lot of details, and just, yikes. Wage garnishment, debt, lying to her parents about paying all my expenses, some expenses that I don't even have, camgirl work to make up what she loses to wage garnishment, etc. Her parents have apologized and told her to stay in their house until I've moved out. They were nice and are renting the U-Haul for me for today and tomorrow to go stay with my brother for a while until I find a new place. And in regards to her lies about her parents' expenses, yeah, had a talk with her father late last night after they overheard her shouting. Turns out she told her parents that she was paying my student loans, that I don't even have, my phone, my car, and our vacations. And now in the comments, I love updates where OP realizes that the relationship is going nowhere and leaves. Good for them. It is so easy for us as Reddit usernames bored at work to just say, you should leave. But there really is so much weight behind that decision. I always feel really proud of people who break away from the sunk cost fallacy and are able to see the light. Same. Between the lying and the financial irresponsibility, I'm glad OP is cutting ties, and good on the ex's parents for not taking their daughter's side in this. 1. Know your partner's finances before you are financially connected to them, especially before getting engaged. And 2, if someone is making you look small for any reason, but especially to make them look big, think about what that means about their personality and how it will impact you. Especially if it's your future wife and husband. Why would you want to spend your life with someone who puts you down? My wife jokes, of course, but never anything mean or anything that would hurt me or put me in a bad light. Our next post is titled, Am I the asshole for making fun of my partner's hair loss? Title sounds bad, I know. This has been an ongoing argument between my partner and I for almost 6 months now. I feel like I'll never hear the end of it. Backstory. I, 23 female, am a naturally fair-skinned girl. I'm also cursed with pretty dark body hairs which make upkeep a complete pain. I shave my legs, and 2 days later, I have dark prickles of hair that I can't shave again for 1.5 weeks or so without causing some pretty painful razor burn. It's something that has bothered me for a long time, as it takes away a lot of my freedom in the warmer seasons, and I have to go and pick and choose what events I can show my legs at. This year, I was invited to go with my 28 male partner to his family's Christmas Day lunch, which I was pretty excited for. A few days before the lunch, my partner and I were also invited to a New Year's Day pool party at his friend's house. Southern Hemisphere for anyone confused here. Of course, this filled me with dread, because I knew that by this point, my legs would look frickin' terrible in a swimsuit. I decided to go to both, and found a gorgeous summer maxi dress to wear for New Year's Day. I thought I'd just relax by the pool on the banana lounge, and also help the host organize the barbecue lunch. After the lunch, I was laying out with a few of the other ladies, while our partners were all mucking about in the pool doing cannonballs. My friend's partner, 25 male, asked why I wasn't swimming, and I just let him know that I wasn't feeling like it that day and I'd rather lay in the shade. At this point, my partner got back up out of the pool, and I assumed he was going to jump back in like usual. Instead, he came over to me, lifted up the bottom of my dress, revealing my legs, and exclaimed, "She isn't swimming today because she's hairy as a frickin' bear." I grabbed my dress and pulled it back down, quite embarrassed, and shot him a very angry look. There were a few chuckles, but mostly awkward silence. I was mortified. He knows how self-conscious I am about this. In my anger, I then bit back and said, "Maybe we can transplant some of my leg hair to that nice bald patch you've been brewing." This was also met with a few chuckles, followed by even more awkward silence. My partner then stormed off from the pool and went inside to get dry. He got changed into his dry clothes and came out and said that we're leaving. I felt really bad, especially for the hosts, so I apologized and said they could keep my salad bowls that I had brought over. My partner and I have never spoken about his hair loss before. When I said this, I did know that it likely bothered him, being that I found photos on his phone of him taking pictures of the top of his head, where the hair loss had started. I just felt that it was hypocritical that he could create that whole situation, and my insecurity wasn't off limits, but his is? I know I didn't handle myself the best here, so am I the asshole? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I made fun of my partner's bald patch in a public setting as a comeback. I think I may have taken this way too far and responded disproportionately to the situation, resulting in me being the insensitive asshole. Honestly, I think you were just defending yourself in this situation, and I know a lot of people will jump on the bandwagon of, it's not right for you to clap back like that, you're both just as bad as each other. But I do think it's important that he respect his partner's boundaries and understand how it feels to be called out for your hair in a public setting like that in front of all your friends. If you're going to do that to your partner, you have to be absolutely sure that they are comfortable with it, and that's something that's okay between you guys. You can't expect your partner not to throw pot shots back at you and target your insecurities in that same vein, and then you be butthurt by it and say they went too far. I understand an eye for an eye makes the world blind, but he started it in this situation and he needed a taste of his own medicine, I think. Personally, I don't think OP is the asshole for this one. I think what they did was the right move. I think maybe it's going to hurt the relationship, but who knows? So yeah, not the asshole. Now in the comments, not the asshole. Why are you dating someone who intentionally publicly humiliates you? This may be totally unsolicited advice, but I have around a product called Tend Skin to be amazing at handling my razor burn. It's essentially an aftershave lotion, liquid coming in a blue bottle. You can probably find it online if stores nearby don't stock it. In the US, I can find it at Target and drugstores. Not the asshole. Your partner lost all expectation of courtesy when he pulled that stunt. Does he do that sort of thing often? At the least, this warrants a serious chat. And OP replies, he doesn't. I'm thinking that maybe alcohol could have been a factor. He wasn't drunk by any means, but he had drank a couple that day, which is an infrequent thing for him. To this day, he still refuses to seek medical assistance for the hair loss, which is ironic in itself because the sooner you address it, the more likely it can be reversed. He's still so young and it's just a circular patch at the crown. So a serious chat about the stunt he pulled ought to fix the immediate problem, in my opinion. But the hair loss? He might be sensitive about it, but obviously it doesn't bother him enough to do anything about it, which means it's not a medical issue. Fun fact, but maybe you have to be here, we live close to Yosemite, and my wife calls me half-dome. OP says, he has let past health issues get pretty chronic before I practically force him to do something about it. He's pretty useless at looking after himself. It's just hard to be tactful with certain things, but I've done really well with it in the past. You have to explain the half-dome reference to me. You're making this all about him instead of how he hurt you. Not the asshole. Don't dish it out if you can't take it in return. I'm assuming he thought he was just teasing, even though he should have been aware that it was a hurtful subject. And if he meant it to be mean rather than a joke, then you have much bigger issues. OP replies, there is no way in hell he thought I'd find that funny, but maybe, if giving him the benefit of the doubt, he could have thought that I wouldn't be that bothered by it. I don't know. I have cried about it to him before. For the longest time, I've had to choose between social events and shortened vacations just because of this. He definitely knows how much it bothers me. Dear OP, I married an asshole like this many years ago. His mode was say something awful, and then it was, I couldn't take a joke. Let me just pass on some life experience. The jokes escalate while your brain acclimated to this behavior. You will also try to shoot back as equally awful retorts. You will find yourself a shell of the person you were. This relationship is a toxic brew. Get out now while you can, not the asshole. And now onto the update. Update for everyone. I sat him down when we both finished work, and he came over just a little over an hour ago. It was a very short conversation. I started the conversation by stating that I would like to clear the air and resentment in the relationship. His response to this was, "Are you going to finally apologize?" I just about died inside. I asked him what I should be apologizing for, and he said the comments I made about his hair at the New Year's party. I then suggested that perhaps we should apologize in sequence of events, so he should go first. He said that there is no way he's apologizing to me after what I said because I crossed a line. I asked him what about him crossing the line with my boundaries and humiliating me. He said it isn't the same because I could have just shaved it off and be done with it, whereas his situation could be permanent. I said that my situation would have remained permanent if I didn't do something about it. He then went quiet and started to shut down, telling me he doesn't want to talk. I told him I don't want his company if he can't have an adult, open conversation with me. He left. I will be dumping him tomorrow. I didn't sign adoption papers. I never wanted this man baby. And now in the comments, I wonder how many of their friends sitting around the pool thought, uh-oh, this isn't gonna end well. I'll give you a hint. All of them. Seeing a couple fight is so frickin' awkward, but you can't turn away either. Like front row seats at a car wreck. Why is it that the people who always make these jokes are often the last ones who are able to take it when it's thrown back at them? Everyone else is somehow fair game, but when it's them, it's always different somehow. He's someone who probably complains about being bullied as a kid, but leaves out that little detail that he was a bully too and often picked the fights. Honestly, it's a way that people deal with insecurities. It's a shitty way, but nevertheless, I think that this is why he feels like the victim. I'm not providing an excuse, just an explanation. Yeah, when you feel bad about yourself, it helps to point out bad things about others. It's a very toxic way to deal with your problems, but a very instinctive one. That's why a lot of people do it. Yeah, he's very immature, but it's the refusal to communicate that really damned the relationship. He might have been able to learn and grow from the incident, but that's impossible without communication. Good on her for leaving. I suspect that my mum is having an affair with my best friend's mum. My friend Susie and her family moved to our town almost 3 years ago. I've always been into sports, and Susie matched my enthusiasm for them, so we became good friends. Our mums met through us, and they became good friends too. My dad got promoted to a different location a few years ago, so he spends alternating months with us. He lives with us for a month and away from us for another. We got used to that arrangement. Mum used to be lonely, but after she met Susie's mum, they became best friends. I was thrilled that she had a friend. But a couple of months ago, I noticed that both of our mums had been disappearing sometimes after the practice started. I didn't think about it much, but last week, we were let out of the practice early, and when I came out, I saw them kissing in the back of the car. I hid immediately, and they didn't see me. I started paying attention to their relationship after that, and they seemed too close. I think they're having an affair. Susie's dad died before they moved here, so she's a single mom. What do I do about my mom? Do I confront her? Should I get more proof? Should I tell my dad first? It's been eating at me and I don't know what to do. And now in the comments, you want to tell someone? Well, now's your chance to walk into the adult world and have a conversation with your mom. Tell her what you saw and ask her what's going on. Try that as the first thing that you do. Some people have arrangements that you aren't aware of. This completely. Tell her how it makes you feel and ask for an explanation. If dad is already aware, then it's possibly okay. If he isn't, then you should let your mum know that you don't want to be in the middle of this and she needs to fix it, one way or another, for both you and your friend's sake. I mean, if your story is true, you literally caught them making out in the car, so yes, they are having an affair. Suspect and seeing are two different things. You need to talk with dad. If you talk to mum first, she'll probably deny and just hide it better. It is an ugly situation to be in. No, I don't think she should tell her dad. That's terrible to put her in that position. It's the adults that are doing this. Wait, so her father deserves to be cheated on? Imagine how he would feel if he found out his own daughter knew and decided to hide it from him. Why are you so adamant on protecting a cheater? Is that some projection that I'm picking up on? No idea why people say to confront the cheater first before telling the betrayed. That just gives them time to get rid of any evidence they may have overlooked. You really shouldn't be having to deal with this, but unfortunately, here you are. Rock into hard place. My mum cheated on my dad for years. He was unaware for the majority of it. I wasn't, but too young to really understand why my mum had a new friend all the time until I was about 11. They divorced when I was 13 because of my mother's activities. Anonymous phone numbers, emails, hell, even the internet wasn't around back then. I wish it had been. I would have used it to notify my father that something was very amiss in their marriage. Anyway, you should tell your dad first. Do it anonymously if you're uncomfortable with letting him know who it is informing him. At least he can have the ability to look into it more and investigate. It could also be that they do have some kind of arrangement between the two of them that allows your mother these types of freedoms, so just give him a heads up. If nothing changes, then you have your answer. If things do change, well, that's an answer as well. At least your conscience will be clear. And now on to the update. So, I waited a few days before I talked to my mom. I was very nervous. When I asked her if she was having an affair with Susie's mom, she started laughing. I was very surprised by her reaction. She video called my dad and told him about what I'd just asked. They smiled at me and told me that my dad knew about it. She told me that he was tired of hiding it and was happy that I found out. I wanted to know more about how they got together, so she explained this. Apparently mum used to have girlfriends before she married, and my dad knew about it. Half a year ago, she was drinking and talking with Susie's mum. Susie's mum told her about her previous relationships with women. They kissed that night, but my mum felt guilty about it and told my dad. My dad had always felt guilty about leaving us alone for so long. They talked and came up with an arrangement where she and Susie's mum could be intimate while dad was away. The only reason they didn't tell me was because they were nervous about how I would react to their unconventional relationship. I told them that I was happy as long as they were happy with their relationship. They wanted to know how Susie would react, so they asked me if they could tell her. I told them I'd try and find out. Several comments indicated this was the case, but it still surprised me. I'm happy that my mum found a partner since she felt lonely whenever my dad had to leave. Thank you to everyone who offered advice. And now in the comments, they were making out in the back of the car while their kids were in sports practice? That's kinda weird. My sister's dad slept with his affair partner in the hospital parking lot after my sis had given birth. Just because something falls in the bucket of things that are important to my child doesn't mean people won't allow their horny hormones to get the better of them. I'm happy everybody is happy in this scenario, but it could have gone a lot worse for OP and her friend. Kids can be vicious to each other. Wow, there is unbelievably screwed up, and then there's that. It gets worse. Baby was in the NICU, and he didn't go up to meet them, just drove off with the affair partner after sexy time was over. I never liked him as a step-parent. I thought throuple for sure, but nope, just two people comfortable in their relationships. Honestly, I wonder whether dad is involved and they just didn't feel like it was necessary to give their daughter all of the details. Hearing about your parents' sex life is weird enough, no need to go beyond reasonably answering the questions that kid asks. I gotta wonder what will happen when dad is back in town full time. Well, they'll communicate and work it out just like they did the first time. And I understand the arrangement is consensual, but this angered me a bit. It's dismissive of OP's feelings as if it was some quirky, happy-go-lucky misunderstanding. Oh, OP, you saw me secretly making out with someone who wasn't your father, my husband, and immediately assumed I'm cheating on him? What a hilarious conclusion to make, you big silly goose. I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but that really got under my skin. It could always be a nervous laugh. OP admitted that they were very nervous going into the talk, and their mum may have picked up on that. When she realized it was about the affair, it could have just been a stress laugh like, oh god, I thought it was going to be so much worse. Lord knows I've done the same countless times. Of course, it's hard to tell without actually being there, and she didn't immediately dismiss it. She called her husband to help clarify the situation for OP. It is reasonable to call dad and explain the situation so OP doesn't think that she's lying to cover her own ass. Our next post is titled, "My husband caught me reenacting a scene from The Lord of the Rings, and I am so embarrassed. Since when I was little, I loved reenacting movies that I loved. I would jump around the house playing on Spider-Man or whatever. Back then, it was a normal child thing, right? But the thing is, I'm doing it still. It's like a form of relaxation for me, I guess. So today, I got back home from work and I still had an hour before my husband would come home from work. So I closed the shutters a little to create an ambience, and I played the Lord of the Rings soundtrack on YouTube. It was time for me to reenact the scene when Frodo and Sam are going to Mount Doom. So I'm there playing Frodo in the living room, music filling the room, and I hear from the doorframe, "What are you doing?" My husband stood there in full suit, looking at me a little suspicious. I didn't hear him coming at all because of the music, and on top of that, he came half an hour early. So in my head, I was like, crap, what do I do? What do I do? So I stopped the music and said, "I was just dancing. Lord of the Rings, you know?" He replied, "I thought you hate dancing." At this point, I was red as a carrot, embarrassed because my husband just caught me shouting, "Destroy it! No! Throw it in the fire!" No. Isildur! He started laughing, but I feel so stupid and weird. It's a weird thing to do, I know, but it gives me happiness. It's a rest for me. I feel so childish though. And now in the comments, if your husband doesn't find this ridiculously charming, he's missing out on how goofily lovable you are. Absolutely. The right response to, "What are you doing?" in this situation is to grab him and say, "Come on, Mr. Frodo, I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you." Dun, 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 dun. Your husband intentionally married the whole you, including the part that reenacts Lord of the Rings, and he certainly already knew about this part of you on many levels, even if he might not have consciously, specifically known what form this part of you would have taken right then. Tell him. Don't assume he'll judge you. Lying about it is just going to make him not trust you. "I wasn't dancing earlier, I just like to reenact movie scenes sometimes. It's fun." It could be a form of interpretive dance, I suppose. You never know. You might have a Sam to carry you, and you might not have to hide this if you're just honest and trusting of him. Tell him that you were ashamed and didn't know what to say because you were worried that he'd laugh at you, but you trust him not to mock you for doing something unusual like this. If I found out my wife did something like this, I would think it was cute and I'd join in, if she let me. My wife never does anything silly like this though. She's too self-conscious to be a person like this. And OP replies, "Thank you for your advice. I will tell him. Your husband is a lucky man. Carry on." Right? I can't even keep my wife awake while watching a sci-fi movie, and she couldn't do the same to me while watching a crime and thriller one. We're from different planets, I guess. You obviously never hung out with the theater kids if you think this is odd or embarrassing. In college, the theater kids I knew did a live-action remake of Ratatouille in the commons of our dorm and had one of my classmates up on the other one's shoulders as a rat for like almost 2 hours for no reason at all. Exactly. I think OP missed out. My 11-year-old is already the most dramatic kid in her class. When they did readers theatre, she insisted on bringing props. Her teacher totally understood and encouraged it. I was like, kid, just wait until you get to high school and can join drama club. And now on to the update. Yeah, okay, this kinda blew up. I think I owe you all an update. So, as many of you suggested, I told him. I told him it helps me release stress and anxiety and feels basically like rest. He actually said he finds it pretty neat and I don't have to feel embarrassed at all. My relief can't be described in words. He said he would like to have a hobby like that to help him relieve stress, so I told him that we can try to do it together. He said it's not his thing and he would probably feel awkward, which is totally fine. He suggested he would call me a couple of minutes before getting home so he wouldn't spook me again and ask me if I wouldn't like to read him the first Lord of the Rings. He never read it, with the voiceover. So I did a couple of pages, he fell asleep on a couch. Of course, still in full suit. Thank you all for your kind messages. Don't worry, I read them all and I appreciate them very much. You are really so sweet and kind, and thank you for the awards. And now in the comments, I'm always mortified when I'm singing alone and my husband yells from somewhere in the house, "Sing it, baby!" I can totally relate to OP. My wife once said she could hear me singing badly in the living room from the bottom of the garden once. I just laughed and said, "That means our poor neighbors heard it too." She laughed and called me an idiot. Wholesome husbands hyping up their wives? Damn. Should be the norm. What's the point of marriage if you don't hype each other up? Also, what's the point if you can't be silly and childish and have fun together? I want to enjoy life, not hide how I have fun from my life partner. That's why you don't hide who you are when dating. Find someone who will improve your fun, not someone who will look down on it. This is cute. I randomly make animal sounds or accents to relieve myself from stress within the confines of my personal space. Sometimes, from a mile away, my husband will reply in the same animal language and accent, i.e., ribbit, and he goes, ribbit? We are all odd creatures when no one is looking. Could be worse. He could have caught you reenacting Smeagol with a fish in your mouth, or holding up his his cock ring, chanting, "My precious." Our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole for not letting my brother-in-law be referred to as an uncle to my kids? I, 32 male, and my wife, 31 female, just welcomed our baby girl into the world 3 weeks ago. Our families were so overjoyed for us. We couldn't have asked for a better family unit. Everything was going great until my sister called and said she could wait to come visit us. We live 5 hours away, so insert baby's name could meet her aunt and uncle. When she said that, my wife and I just looked at each other dumbfounded because 4 years earlier, when they had their first kid and my wife and I met them for the first time, she said, 'We don't feel comfortable with our kids referring to your wife as an aunt because she isn't blood.' At that point, my wife and I had been married for 6 years. It made no sense to us, but we accepted it and moved on. We were always Uncle Jay and insert wife's name. When they finally get up here the following weekend after all the kids have been put to bed, she referred to her and her husband as aunt and uncle. We talked to her about what seemed to be a double standard, saying, 'We are really a fan of how my wife can't be an aunt, but her husband can be uncle, and how to avoid confusing the kids, we would prefer if he were just referred to by his name as well.' She started yelling, saying it's different, and that woke the kids up. She got even more pissed at that, grabbed her 2 little ones, and stormed out of the house, and got a hotel for the night. My mum and dad called me and told me that I was being petty and to call and apologize. They're right. I was petty, but I won't stand a double standard and have my wife, my partner, my teammate be treated as if she is not a part of the family. We've been together over 10 years. So am I the asshole for not letting my brother-in-law be referred to as an uncle? Edit, my sister and wife get along well. My sister was kinda jealous of my mum's liking of my wife. My mum is a very hippie soul, go with the flow kind, and so is my wife. My sister is very type A and always wished she could be more spontaneous and like my mum. And now in the comments, did she offer an explanation of why it is different? Seriously, I am normally a non-confrontational person, and as soon as someone gets mad, I apologize even if it's not my fault. But this is different. I would stand my ground. So no, OP, you are not the asshole. I also want to know why sister-in-law thinks there's a difference between OP's wife and brother-in-law. Well, you see, it's different because this makes the sister feel bad. Not the asshole. It's not different at all. It is literally the same thing. It's different because it's me, not the asshole. Tell her that you'll consider letting him be an uncle if she can explain why her husband can be an uncle and your wife can't. It sounds like your sister harbors some resentment for your wife for some reason. If the only thing she can come up with is she isn't blood, then she can go, insert something unpleasant here. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. I gotta say, just from the title, I was gonna go in the other direction, lol. But this is a classic case of someone not liking the hole they dug. Too forking bad. Maybe let your parents sit with this for a while and then ask them about this double standard. But be prepared for not liking the answer. Good luck. Oh my god. All of our close friends refer to my husband and I as aunt and uncle, even though we have no blood relation to their children. It's not 1 or 2 families, it's like 6. We never asked for this, but they were very stoked they saw us having such a relationship with their kids. And now on to the update. Sister, mum, and dad agreed to a Zoom call later tonight, after we're all home from work. We live in different time zones. Update 2, mum called me on my lunch, she's retired, and she asked me, now that dad's not around to influence her because my dad is old and grumpy and doesn't like drama, what exactly is going on? I told her the entire story, and she was floored, and apologized for assuming that I was being an asshole, and that she would help me talk to my sister later on the Zoom. Update 3, Zoom call. I would like to start out and say my parents had no idea about my wife not having the title aunt. They were pissed at sis for that. I won't go into full detail, but to summarize, my sis isn't referred to as aunt to my brother-in-law's niece and nephew, so she took it out on my wife. The reason she got mad at me for throwing her logic back at her is because she wished she would have said something to her sister-in-law and felt like if she started calling my wife aunt now, it would confuse the kids. After a long Zoom of confessions and tears on her side, my wife is Auntie N now, and my brother-in-law is Uncle A. All ended well. Thanks for the advice and support. And now in the comments, what was wrong with this sister? I mean, how can you justify to yourself implementing a stupid rule that you yourself are hurt and annoyed by on someone who wasn't involved at all and whom you actually like? It comes up all the time on Reddit that there are 2 types of people in the world. Those that have suffered and want everyone else to suffer the same as them since they had to go through it, and those that have suffered and do what they can to prevent anyone from having to suffer in the same way. This is sadly so true. It says a lot about a person's character and moral development when they are hurt and therefore want others to hurt similarly. Why is no one giving any crap to the brother-in-law? This dude is aware of pretty much everything that is happening and is essentially letting his sister walk all over his wife. His wife sucks, but I have a strong suspicion that he sucks even more. This 100%. Look at her brother standing up for his wife and her husband being all okay about this treatment. Quote, now that dad's not around to influence her because my dad is old and grumpy and doesn't like drama. What the heck does that even mean? I'm no fan of drama myself. I consider myself grumpy. Guess I'm getting oldish, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna hang around my wife when she's asking questions, barking at her just because I don't like it. People who are raised in an old school way are used to internalizing issues and often think conflict resolution is everyone just shutting up and not expressing a feeling. This is especially prevalent in men who were taught that feelings equals weakness. These people are often grumpy and miserable because they don't deal with their negative emotions. Tomorrow, I am going to ruin his life. I have been with him for 3 years now. We planned on getting married when our lives settle down. I wanted to start a family with him. I loved him more than anyone else in this world. I have sacrificed so much for him, moved away from my home, turned down jobs so I could stay with him, and stood by his side as he started to go back to school. I gave him my world, and he cheats on me. I found out over a month ago. The scumbag got cocky, and I found out he was cheating on me with 2 different women. One is a TA at his university, the other his best friend's girlfriend. I am livid. I write this post choking back venom. I loved him so much. He was my world, but now he will be the world I burn to nothing but ash. I pay for everything since he quit his job last year to go to school. I was more than happy to help him. I make enough to support us both. The only upside is the student loans are in his name with no connection to me. It will hurt to push the scumbag out to sea, but I will survive. I have held out for a month, enough time to create what I call the day his world burns. Tomorrow we are hosting a party. I arranged for his family to come, but my family will sadly not be able to make it. I have packed everything valuable already, and the suitcase is in the back of my car. My brother will come during the event tomorrow to take the car that is in my name that the dirtbag drives to my parents' house. The joint account, which is all my money anyway, is already empty. The event will be great, and he thinks that it's for us to announce our engagement to his family. What will happen in reality is I will announce my departure from his life. I have already taken a job out of state and have lined up a new place to live. I will start by telling everyone what he is into, the screenshots of him asking his friend's girlfriend to piss on him, and the many other fantasies his degenerate mind came up with will be passed around. I will hand him the notice to vacate as I have already broken our lease. We need to be out by the end of the month. I will then end off by informing him I have already reported that he was sleeping with the TA of one of his classes the previous semester to the university, and that I'm sad that I won't see the fallout from that. His friend also has a message for him that I will deliver, informing him that his friend group never wants to see him again as well. And with that, I will leave. I will not look back. I will set his life on fire and walk away. And now in the comments, you better start your speech to his family with a recitation of all the ways that you have loved and supported him, and as it goes on, they can get more suspicious of why you were even saying all of this. Definitely need an update on this. I'm glad you found a job far away and have a new place secured. He deserves the fallout, and you have a new chapter in your life to look forward to. Damn, you have patience. I'm impressed. Best of luck in the new chapter of your life. Seems like a lot of effort to expend on someone not really worth your time. I'd just leave, tape the picture to the fridge and go. And OP replies, the truth hurts, more so because what you say is 100% true. He is not worth it. He is a cheating scumbag who ruined my life. The sooner I cut him off, the better. But I lost everything the night I found out he was cheating on me. A piece of me died that night. Maybe I'm terrible, but thinking of just walking away without making him lose everything that he took from me kills me inside. Nah, F him. Time for him to learn that actions have consequences, otherwise you know damn well he will do it again to the next girl. You were not just hurting him, you were bettering him, hopefully, and preventing anyone else from having to deal with that crap again, hopefully. Just walk away. Don't show up. Leave with your dignity, your belongings, your car, and your money. Leave him to entertain the guests and let his friends tell him why you left. The rest will not serve you well. Message the TA and his best friend privately and let them know, but hold your self-respect and don't lower yourself to his level. Be kind to yourself and mind yourself. I'm wishing you all the best. Honestly, this. If your intent is to make him hurt, just leave and delete him from your life. If you make a show out of it, get his rage, it would be much easier for him to let things go in the future. After all, you gave him an excuse. You showed your weakness. If you just leave and completely get rid of this person from your life, it would be a lot more difficult for him to digest, and it will be a lot more difficult for him to live with it. And now, onto the update. Yesterday, I was supposed to ruin his life. They say that hubris is the downfall of man. Yesterday, I planned to ruin his life in front of his entire family. I worked for a month to create the scenario that would cut him the deepest. I had patiently waited for the chance to storm out of this world in a blaze of glory. And then I hit the front page of Reddit. I realized I had screwed up when he was not answering my texts and had not shown up hours after he told me he would be home. I had hoped that it was a happy accident, literally a car killing him before I had the chance. But no. I don't know how many men in the world are currently cheating on their soon-to-be fiancé with their best friend's girlfriend and a TA. However, the one who mattered in my plan found my Reddit post. I called his mother and found out that he had run home to his parents. He told them that we had a fight and that we were probably through. I was, and still am, livid at myself. His mother asked me what had happened, as he left out a few details. So I decided to tell her that he was cheating on me with a TA and his friend's girlfriend. I soon heard shouting before she hung up. I texted my ex that he had until morning to return my effing car before I reported it stolen and sent the screenshots of all his texts to his parents and siblings. My car was sitting in my driveway when I woke up. I contemplated sending the screenshots anyway, but his mother sent me a heartfelt text yesterday apologizing for her son's actions, and I feel they deserved to be spared from his degenerate actions. I and my father will be moving all of my stuff today, and I won't be coming back after that. I know you'll be reading this, you cheating F. You're a cowardly piece of crap. Just know that I am not above sending out all of the screenshots if you ever dare to come back into my life. Oh, and your ex-friends all know about your piss and scat fetish. I can't control what they do with that information, so good luck with that. And now in the comments, well, at least you avoided a potential murder-suicide, so there is that. That's exactly what I was thinking. This plan could have gone wrong in a lot of other ways. I'm just glad that she got out safely and can move on with her life. I feel sorry for this dude's mama because it sounds like she didn't raise him to act like that. OP, wishing you all the best in your new life moving forward. Okay, so I'll tell you what my grandmom told me when I wanted to take revenge on someone. Just stand back, live as happy as you can, and do not move a finger, because nothing you do can be worse than what people like this will do to themselves when you let them. They are trapped with themselves. You don't have to do anything for them to fall down, because they will trip over themselves and you didn't have to get dirty in the first place. She was so right. I'm so sorry that your plan was ruined, but it's the thought that counts, I guess. In all seriousness, I'm glad that it all worked out for you in the end, and the little cow decided to run to mummy and daddy instead of turning violent or some crap like that. All the best for you in your new life. This is a lesson for everyone who wants non-criminal revenge. Don't post identifying details on Reddit until it's done. That being said, it might be for the best. This way his life is still on fire, and absolutely no pity will be found for him. If she had gone through with it, someone would have said too far, and might actually help him. Very much so. The other thing I thought while I was reading this was, this is not going to go the way that OP thinks it will. It felt like when you pre-plan a conversation, but it ends up going nothing like your plan. With a whole room full of people, OP's presentation would have been interrupted almost as soon as it began. People don't just sit impassively and absorb that sort of news. Sometimes you live long enough to watch yourself become the supervillain that spends way too long explaining their diabolical plans and lets the dude escape the carefully laid trap. You sly dog! You caught me monologuing! Our next post is titled, Am I the asshole for telling my biological sisters I don't want to meet our bio parents? I, 30 female, am a Chinese woman who was adopted from mainland China when I was a baby and grew up in the UK. I grew curious of my roots and if I had any family out there, so I took a 23andMe test. I found 4 sisters through this test, and I am the oldest. My sisters are 29, 28, 24, and 20. The 3 middle sisters are in America, and the youngest is in Germany. We have kept in contact via the internet and have even met in person twice before COVID started. I have 2 brothers that I grew up with who are my parents' biological sons, and as far as I'm concerned, they and my parents are my true family. But I have grown close to my biological sisters as we understand each other a lot. What my parents know of my birth story is that I was found in an alleyway in a box. My sisters were found relatively the same way from what they know, though they were left outside of buildings in public areas, so I'm a bit more bitter than they are about how we were abandoned, as I was left out of the way where I could have been missed. We recently got contacted by a new family member found by the test, an 18-year-old full brother who lives in France with our bio parents. Apparently, they moved there later in life. My biological sisters are excited by this and are eager to meet them. They want the 5 of us to fly out together to meet our brother and family. I have told them that I won't stop them, but I have no interest in meeting the couple who clearly kept trying to have a boy and abandoned 5 daughters that we know of, reminding them there could have been more that we don't know about who haven't used 23andMe. They feel that I'm being unreasonable in this, and I should at least go to meet our brother. I am fine meeting him one day, but not with them there, and he and I have been exchanging emails for now. I know they want the 5 of us to go out as a united front in this, and me not wanting to go is disheartening for them, but I honestly feel bitter in regards to this whole situation. Honestly, I can see where everyone's coming from in this one, but I'm with you in this one. They obviously didn't want you or any girls in this family, so they abandoned you. And yes, who knows if there are other girls that they abandoned in the same way. I can respect those that do want to meet them and, get some closure from this whole situation, but I personally cannot blame you at all for wanting to keep a distance from your bio parents. So I'm gonna say not the asshole. And now in the comments, not the asshole. They want to go, you do not. That's fine on both sides. They have no business pushing you to go meet bio family. I think a more accurate judgment would be no assholes here, because using not the asshole would mean that the siblings are assholes. Look, I was initially going to go with no assholes here, but switched to not the asshole based on this. They feel I'm being unreasonable in this, and I should at least go to meet our brother. They should not be calling OP unreasonable or pressuring her to do what they want here. As a person who was adopted, agreed. If someone called me unreasonable for this, I would cut them off. But that's only me because I'm vindictive. OP's bio parents may as well have written, "We wanted a boy, but we got you instead." She is allowed to be bitter. I also feel like her sisters might learn the hard way that they weren't welcome, but I could be wrong. Not the asshole. That is a very personal trauma for you, and it is especially worse for you as the one who is the oldest and was the closest to not having a life at all because of their abandonment. I hope you and your brother form as strong of a bond as you and your sisters have. It isn't his fault that your parents did this, and I hope they come to understand your feelings and stop pushing it. OP replies, "It was a bit tough to work up the ability to exchange emails with him. After all, he's the goal that they were clearly aiming for that resulted in myself and my bio sisters being abandoned. That being said, I reminded myself that he's really just a kid and none of this was his fault." Not the asshole. I too am an adopted person who was abandoned at birth, outside of a bodega in the bad part of town. I also took a DNA test and ended up meeting my biological family, and I regret it so very, very much. Meeting my siblings and birth parents sickened me so much that I feel as though I'll never get my mind back to where it used to be, and I had the unfortunate pleasure of being filmed for TV meeting them. It has sucked finding out that I have an older brother with the same birthday as me. Only he got to have a birthday party, and I got left outside in the cold. Please don't ever think you're an asshole for not wanting to meet your bio parents. You are not. Sometimes it's a lot worse than not knowing. And OP replies, "I am so sorry. The idea of being filmed for that, it makes me want to throw up. I'm sorry that you had to put up with that. I can imagine why that would suck finding out that your older brother had the same birthday as you. I was left in the alley in winter. I'm not sure of my exact birthday. We have a rough estimate, but nothing more. If you do ever want to talk to someone who is similar in this, feel free to hit me up." And now onto the update. So I've had contact with my bio parents. After some pushing from my bio sisters over getting in contact with our bio parents, as while I don't want to fly out to meet them with my sisters, they still want to talk to me. I finally consented to having a Zoom call with our bio parents, as that was the most that I could handle. I'll be honest, it was like a punch in the gut. I looked so much like our bio mother that it was a little startling. So I found out some answers to some important questions. Firstly, why were we abandoned? As many of you can guess, it was to do with the one-child policy. They wanted a son, but there was additional internal pressure to this. My paternal grandparents had told them that if they kept a daughter, they would be cut off and not have a penny of the family money. It is why I was abandoned so differently from my sisters. It was my paternal grandmother who took me out to abandon. My bio parents always assumed that I had died with how she left me, so they took over the abandonment of my sisters, which is why they were left in better places. Was there any other children? Yes, one. A boy who would be 22 right now had everything went to plan. They had been going to keep him, but apparently something was wrong about him. I don't know what, and they didn't expand on that, but apparently my paternal grandfather forced them to give him up as he was ashamed. Why did they move to France? After our youngest brother was born, they finally gained financial independence from my paternal grandparents and were able to move. They were the ones that asked their son to take the test, hoping to find their other children. So, where does this leave us? They were so happy to talk to me and kept going on about how they now had most of their children back and could have it all. I cut them off there and told them they didn't have us back. I expressed sympathy for what they had been put through by my paternal grandparents, but pointed out they chose money over me and over all of us, and how they could have chosen to simply keep me or any of the others and make their own way in life, but they hadn't. I thanked them for the call, but I told them that I had a family already and had no further interest in speaking with them. Also that I would continue to be in contact with my bio brother, but this was all that they would get. They tried to beg me to stay on the call, but I left, and I admit that I had a little bit of a sob afterwards. My adoptive sisters ended up taking me out to drink afterwards, and the three of us got hammered while I vented and cried some. But it helped work through things a lot. So thanks everyone. I just figured that you all deserved an update. And now in the comments, I really hope that the conversation with them gave you some kind of closure. Thank you for sharing this update with us. Yeah. At least she got a few questions answered. Seems like it would be better to know than to always wonder. Doesn't exactly make it easier, but perhaps provides some closure. Having had friends and family that were adopted, the reason that they were abandoned was nearly always a terrible situation in which the birth parent/mother felt that it was the better option / they had no choice. There was at least one more question in OP's case, why she was abandoned in a different way than her sisters. But yeah, I'm sure they pretty much all explain it that way, but at least OP had that conversation and knows who they are. I'm glad that she has her sisters with her to get her drunk and listen to her venting. This is peak British people therapy. Gather a small group of loved ones, go to the pub, or more likely multiple pubs, and then proceed to get so shit-faced that any problem seems minor compared to the hangover. And OP says, hey, I may have been born in China, but I was raised in Britain. It is the best medicine sometimes. And edit, I know some people will likely be curious based on this, but no, I don't get the Asian flush, aka heat flush, in response to alcohol. I was lucky genetically, I suppose. Growing up, I didn't even know that that was a thing until my mid-20s. My adoptive family are Pakistani, so they don't get it either. Holy F, as an adopted Chinese woman, this is exactly why I stopped searching. While I think it would have been incredible to find siblings, the nightmare of finding out about my bio parents is all too real. There are so many scenarios that are just too heartbreaking to even think about, and this is one of them. I have a real family. I'm just not genetically related to them. I'm glad OP also seems to have an incredible support system. Maybe one day a sibling of mine will also pop up on 23andMe. Thank you so much for sharing. I grew up with adoptees, and usually it's a case of bio parents were poor so child was adopted. But this is just so extreme. 7 pregnancies and giving up 6 kids? Yes. I'd assume that most people who don't find their bio parents from international adoption were given up by parents who either have a big secret or they are too poor to afford DNA tests. For this family to give up 7 kids and then think 30 years later that they can swoop in and make everything okay, it's baffling. I can't even wrap my mind around birthing and abandoning 6 infants in a row, with their biggest effort against it all being to abandon their newborns in less dangerous locations. And how on earth did they explain all those full-term pregnancies to their friends and neighbors? Not China, but from Taiwan, and my paternal grandparents had 5 daughters before they had my dad, their first son. They ended up giving away 2 daughters, one to childless neighbors and another one to childless extended family to raise. When my dad was born, my great-grandmother, his grandma, basically put the entire family's land holdings in his name the minute he was born, completely bypassing my grandfather, her son. Asians really do love their boys. I went to a university in Guangzhou, and one of my roommates was in a serious relationship with his girlfriend where they were almost ready to get married, but when he met the parents, they told him that they basically raised her to be married to a rich guy, and his family is simply not rich enough. His girlfriend sided with her parents, and she broke up with him. He cried the whole night when he came back that day. It was heartbreaking. And on that note, I'm gonna end the episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.